I disappeared on a Saturday morning, leaving my sister standing at my apartment door with 3 kids and enough luggage for months. The look on Jessica's face when she realized I wasn't coming back is something I'll never see, but I've imagined it 1,000 times. Confusion turning to panic. Panic hardening into rage. And honestly, the thought of it still brings me a dark satisfaction that I'm not entirely proud of. But this isn't a story about revenge. It's about what happens when family love curdles into obligation, when helping someone becomes enabling them, and when saying no becomes the bravest damn thing you can do. My name is Catherine Thompson. I'm 32, I work with numbers because they don't lie to me, and until 3 months ago, I was drowning in someone else's life while my own slipped away, one canceled plan at a time. The twisted thing about being the responsible sister is that nobody asks if you want the job. They hand it to you with a smile that says both congratulations and you have no choice, then act surprised when you don't fall to your knees in gratitude. I lived in this small apartment on the east side of town, nothing fancy, but it was mine. Every Saturday, I'd drive to my parents' house for dinner, sitting in that driveway for extra minutes, sometimes gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white, wondering why I couldn't just turn around and go home. Family is family, though. That's what my mother always said, usually while handing me another responsibility I never asked for. This particular Saturday, Jessica's beat-up Honda was already in the driveway when I arrived. My sister is 3 years older than me, 35 with 3 kids, Emma, 12, Liam, 10, and Ella, who just turned 8. They're good kids, but they're a handful. And Jessica? She's been divorced for 2 years and on a relentless mission to find husband number 2. Here's the thing nobody talks about in my family, my parents pay half of Jessica's rent, and I pay the other half. Not because anyone asked me to, but because when Jessica was sobbing about potentially losing her apartment, Mom looked at me with those guilt-filled eyes and said, "Catherine, honey, you don't have children. You can afford to help." Just like that. Not a request, not a discussion. An assumption. I knocked on the door and heard the usual chaos, kids yelling, Mom trying to restore order, Dad's TV blaring some sports show. Through the noise, I heard Mom call out, "Catherine's here," in that voice that makes everything sound like either a crisis or a celebration. Mom opened the door with that smile she reserves for moments when she needs something. She's 58, works part-time at the local library, and has perfected the art of making you feel guilty while pretending to be cheerful. Dad looked up from his recliner, 61, retired from the post office, spending his golden years watching sports and complaining about blood pressure medication. "Hey, kiddo," he said. "How's work?" "Same old. Numbers don't lie, but people sure try to make them." He chuckled and went back to his game, blissfully unaware that in about 2 hours, his favorite daughter was going to ask me to give up my entire life for her convenience. I found Jessica in the kitchen, trying to get Ella to stop pulling Liam's hair while Emma sat at the counter, scrolling through her phone like the chaos around her was just background noise. This scene was so familiar I could have directed it from memory. Jessica has always been pretty, blonde hair, blue eyes, and that smile she learned to weaponize early. She's the kind of person who thinks her problems are automatically everyone else's emergency. Since the divorce, she's been dating constantly, going out 2 or 3 nights a week and leaving her kids with whoever's available. Usually me. At least twice a week, Jessica shows up at my apartment after work with all 3 kids in tow. She'll have that look on her face, the one that says she needs a favor but she's going to pretend she's doing me one. "Hey, Catherine," she'll say, "I know this is last minute, but I have a date tonight and I really need someone to watch the kids." And what am I supposed to say? Let 3 children suffer because their mother can't plan ahead? So I cancel my plans, order pizza for 4, and spend my evening refereeing fights between Liam and Ella while Emma retreats into her phone, probably wishing she was anywhere else. Just like I was. The weekends are even worse. Jessica and Mom will decide they need to go shopping, and somehow I end up babysitting all day. Not asked, told. Like it's just assumed that I have nothing better to do with my Saturday than chase two hyperactive kids around while their mother tries on clothes she can't afford. I've tried bringing it up before. I've said things like, Jessica, I need some personal time too, or maybe we should set up a schedule so this isn't always last minute. But every time I do, she starts crying. The tears come instantly, along with the speech about how hard it is to be a single mom and how she just needs to find someone who can be a father to her kids. Then my parents jump in with their favorite lecture about how family comes first and how I'm being selfish for not wanting to help my sister in her time of need. Selfish. That word has been thrown at me so many times over the past 2 years that I started believing it. Like wanting one evening to myself was somehow morally equivalent to abandoning orphans in a snowstorm. But this Saturday felt different from the moment we sat down for dinner. Jessica had this glow about her, and she kept exchanging knowing glances with my parents like they were all in on some wonderful secret. So, she said, cutting into her pot roast with theatrical precision, I have some news. My parents nodded like they'd rehearsed this moment. I met someone, Jessica continued, and I swear I could hear the violins starting to play in her head. His name is Derek, and he's really great. We've been seeing each other for about 3 weeks now. That's wonderful, honey, Mom said, beaming like Jessica had just announced she'd won the Nobel Prize. The thing is, Jessica went on, and here it comes, there's always a thing with Jessica. I really think this could be something serious. He's different from the other guys I've dated. He's stable, has a good job, and he's looking for something real. I waited for the other shoe to drop. With Jessica, there's always another shoe, and it's always aimed directly at my head. The only thing is, she said, glancing at the kids who were making abstract art with their mashed potatoes, I haven't told him about Emma, Liam, and Ella yet. I want to make sure we're solid before I bring them into it. There it was. The shoe, falling in slow motion. So anyway, Jessica continued, completely ignoring the fact that Ella was now flicking peas across the table at Liam like tiny green missiles, Derek asked me to go away with him this weekend. There's this really nice mountain resort about 2 hours from here, and he got us a cabin. My fork froze halfway to my mouth. Here we go. The thing is, Jessica said, looking directly at me now, I need someone to watch the kids. Just for the weekend, Saturday morning to Sunday evening. I put my fork down. This weekend, Jessica? I can't. It's my best friend Ashley's birthday party on Saturday night. I already RSVP'd and everything. The table went dead silent. Even the kids stopped their food fight and looked up, sensing the shift in atmosphere like animals before an earthquake. Before Jessica could respond, Mom jumped in like she'd been shot from a cannon. Catherine, honey, your sister is more important than some friend's birthday party. Some friend? I felt my voice getting louder, and for once, I didn't try to stop it. Ashley has been my best friend since college. And I'm tired of being the default babysitter every time Jessica has a date. Jessica's eyes started getting watery, her signature move. I can't believe you're being like this. I'm being realistic. I watch them twice a week already. I pay half your rent. When do I get to have a life? You're being selfish, Mom said sharply, and there was that word again, wielded like a weapon. Jessica needs to establish her personal life. Then maybe she should tell Derek about the kids instead of lying to him. Jessica's face went white, then red. She grabbed her purse and the kids' backpacks, practically dragging them toward the door. Ella started crying, not understanding why the adults were upset, just knowing that something was wrong in her small world. I heard the car door slam, the engine start, and then silence except for the tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Then it started, the lecture I'd heard 100 times before but with extra venom this time. Are you happy now? Mom asked, her voice colder than I'd ever heard it. She's a single mother going through a hard time. She deserves to find someone who can be a father to those children. And I deserve to have my own life. You're being selfish, Catherine. Family comes first. Fine. You care so much about Jessica's love life? You watch Emma, Liam, and Ella for the weekend. I can't do that, Mom said immediately, switching tactics with expert precision. My back has been killing me all week. I threw it out moving that bookshelf. And I've got blood pressure issues, Dad added helpfully. Doctor says I need to avoid stress. 3 kids for a whole weekend? That's too much. They kept going for 20 minutes, tag-teaming me with guilt trips and accusations. I was selfish. I was ungrateful. I didn't understand what real responsibility meant. Jessica had sacrificed everything for those kids, and the least I could do was help her find happiness. By the time they were done, I felt like I'd been hit by a truck. These were my parents, the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, and they were treating me like some kind of monster for wanting to attend my friend's birthday party. Fine, I said finally. I'll watch them. Oh, honey, that's wonderful, Mom said, instantly switching back to sweetness. I knew you'd come around. You're such a good sister. I drove home in a daze. The first thing I did was call Ashley. Hey girl, what's up? I can't make it tomorrow night. Family emergency. Oh no. Is everything okay? Yeah, it will be. I'm sorry. I know how much work you put into planning this. Don't worry about it. There will be other birthdays. But as I hung up, I wondered if there would be other friendships. How many times could I cancel before people stopped including me in their lives altogether? Saturday morning came too soon. At exactly 9 a.m., Jessica showed up at my door with 3 duffel bags and a smile so bright it could have powered a small city. You're a lifesaver, she said, practically bouncing on her toes. I packed enough clothes for 2 days, and there's snacks in Emma's bag. Oh, and Liam needs his inhaler if he gets too worked up. The weekend was a nightmare. Liam and Ella fought constantly, not the normal sibling bickering, but the kind of exhausting warfare that requires constant intervention. Emma was moody and kept asking when her mom was coming back, and honestly, I couldn't give her a good answer. They didn't like anything I cooked. They complained about being bored despite having brought half of Toys R Us with them. They made a disaster zone of my living room with games and toys scattered across every surface. Sunday afternoon, while I was in the kitchen making sandwiches and trying to salvage some sense of peace, I heard a crash from the living room. I ran in to find my brand new TV screen spiderweb with cracks and Liam standing there with the remote control in his hand, tears streaming down his face. I didn't mean to, he said, starting to sob. Ella pushed me and I threw it. I did not. Ella yelled back, her face red with indignation. My TV, the one I'd saved up for months to buy, the one that represented countless evenings of choosing to stay in instead of going out because I was saving money, destroyed in seconds. Sunday evening, Jessica finally showed up around 8. She looked relaxed and happy, like she'd had the best weekend of her life, skin glowing from mountain air and romance. How did it go? She asked, barely glancing at the kids who were already putting on their shoes. They broke my TV. Oh, that's too bad, she said with a shrug, like I'd mentioned a minor inconvenience. Kids, you know? Ready to go home, guys? That was it. No apology, no offer to help pay for repairs, no acknowledgement that I'd given up my entire weekend. She packed them up and left, and I was alone in my apartment with a broken TV and the smell of spilled juice ground into my carpet. A few weeks passed. I got the TV fixed, $300 out of my pocket. I caught up on the work I'd missed while dealing with 3 kids all weekend. I tried to get back to normal, but something had shifted inside me, like a foundation that had finally cracked under too much weight. Then I ran into Tiffany at the grocery store. Tiffany is Jessica's friend, but we'd gotten close over the years. She's one of the few people who knows how much Jessica relies on me for babysitting. "Catherine, hi," she said, but she looked uncomfortable when she saw me. "Listen, I need to tell you something. I probably shouldn't, but I think you should know." My stomach dropped. "What?" "I had coffee with Jessica yesterday, and she told me about her plans with Derek." "What plans?" Tiffany looked around like she was afraid someone would overhear us discussing state secrets. "She wants him to move in with her, but she still hasn't told him about the kids." I stared at her, trying to process what I was hearing. "What do you mean?" "She's planning to send Emma, Liam, and Ella to live with you for a few months, just until she can ease Derek into the idea of having kids around. She figures you can take care of them during the day while you're at work, maybe hire a babysitter if you need to. She said you wouldn't mind since you don't have kids of your own. A babysitter that I would pay for, presumably." "Well, yeah. She said she'd be tight on money with Derek living there." I thanked Tiffany somehow and made it through the rest of my shopping, but all I could think about was Jessica's plan. She wanted to dump her kids on me for months, make me pay for their childcare, and lie to Derek about their existence. She was willing to sacrifice her children's emotional well-being and my entire life so she could play pretend with some guy she'd known for 3 weeks. But then I realized something that changed everything. If I made a big scene, they'd just guilt-trip me again. Mom would cry about Jessica's hard life. Dad would lecture me about family loyalty. Jessica would sob about how I was ruining her chance at happiness. And somehow, I'd end up watching those kids anyway. So I decided to be smarter about it. The next morning, I called my landlord, Mr. Coleman. He's this older guy who owns 3 rental properties in town, and I've been a good tenant for 2 years, always paid on time, never caused problems. "Mr. Coleman, it's Catherine Thompson. I need to ask you about breaking my lease early due to family circumstances." "Well, you've been such a good tenant, Catherine. If you can be out by the end of next week, we'll call it even. I've got someone interested in the place anyway." I hung up feeling lighter than I had in weeks. I had 2 weeks to find a new place and move before Jessica's plan went into action. I spent my lunch breaks apartment hunting, looking for something on the other side of town, far enough away that Jessica couldn't just show up unannounced with 3 kids and a sob story. I found the perfect place, a 1-bedroom apartment in a complex near the river. It was actually cheaper than my current place, and the landlord could have me moved in within a week. I took vacation days to pack and move. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing, not my parents, not Jessica, not even Ashley. I just quietly transferred my life to the new apartment, box by box, like I was planning the most elaborate magic trick in history. By Thursday, I was completely moved into my new place. I sat in my new living room eating takeout tacos and marveling at the silence, no unexpected knocks on the door, no emergency babysitting requests, no guilt trips about family obligations. When my phone rang and Mom's name appeared on the screen, I knew exactly why she was calling. "Catherine, honey, I wanted to invite you to dinner on Saturday. Your father's making his famous barbecue ribs." Her voice sounded weird, like she was trying too hard to sound casual. This was going to be the dinner where they'd spring Jessica's plan on me, complete with emotional manipulation and the assumption that I'd just roll over and accept it. "That sounds great, Mom. I'll be there." Saturday afternoon, I drove to my parents' house knowing this would probably be the last family dinner I'd have for a long time. But I was ready for it. I was more than ready. Jessica's car was already in the driveway when I arrived. Through the window, I could see Emma, Liam, and Ella running around the backyard while Dad worked at the grill. Everything looked so normal, so family perfect, like a scene from a commercial about loving relatives and Sunday dinners. "Catherine!" Mom hugged me when I walked in. Perfect timing. We're almost ready to eat. We sat down at the picnic table in the backyard. The kids were being relatively well behaved, probably because they were outside and had room to run around. For a moment, I almost felt nostalgic for the simplicity of family dinners, for the time when the biggest drama was whether Liam would eat his vegetables. "So," Jessica said after we'd been eating for a few minutes, "I have some exciting news." Mom and Dad exchanged glances. They definitely knew what was coming. Derek and I have decided to take our relationship to the next level. He's going to move in with me for a few months, kind of like a trial run before we talk about getting engaged. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom said, her voice dripping with artificial enthusiasm. "The thing is," Jessica continued, looking directly at me, "he's not ready to jump into the whole family thing yet. So I thought maybe Emma, Liam, and Ella could stay with you for a while. Just until Derek gets comfortable with the idea of having kids around." I nodded and kept eating my ribs, playing my part perfectly. "It would just be for a few months," Jessica went on. "And I know you need help during the day while you're at work, so I thought you could find a babysitter. I mean, you don't have kids of your own, so you have more flexibility with your money." Still nodding, still eating. I was enjoying this more than I'd enjoyed anything in months. Once Derek sees how great I am in a relationship, he'll be ready to meet the kids and become their stepdad. It's perfect for everyone. Mom jumped in right on cue. "We think it's a wonderful opportunity for Jessica to secure her future, and the kids love spending time with you. It's really important for Jessica's happiness," Dad added. "This could be her chance to give those kids a real family." I finished my last bite and wiped my hands on my napkin. "When were you thinking of doing this?" "Well," Jessica said, barely containing her excitement, "I was hoping maybe next Saturday. Derek's lease is up at the end of the month, so we want to start fresh." "Next Saturday. So in a week." "Exactly. I know it's short notice, but you're so good with the kids, and you don't really have anything else going on." I smiled, genuinely smiled for the first time in weeks. "That sounds fine." Jessica's face lit up like Christmas morning. "Really? Oh my God, Catherine, thank you so much. This is going to change everything for us. The kids will love living with their aunt, and Derek will fall in love with me without any distractions." We finished dinner, and I helped clean up. Jessica was practically glowing as she told me about her plans for redecorating the apartment to make it more adult, without kid stuff everywhere. "I'll bring them over Saturday morning with all their things," she said as we loaded the dishwasher. "They'll need their school clothes and everything since they'll be staying through the week." "Of course. And I'll give you money for the babysitter once Derek and I get settled." "Sure." When I left that night, Jessica hugged me tighter than she had in years. "I love you so much, Catherine. You're saving my life." I drove back to my new apartment, the one my family didn't even know existed, and smiled the whole way home. Saturday morning was going to be very interesting. Saturday morning, I woke up in my new apartment and made coffee. I sat by the window watching the river flow past, feeling more peaceful than I had in years. I knew exactly what was happening across town at 9 a.m. sharp. Jessica would be knocking on the door of my old apartment with 3 kids and enough luggage for months. She'd probably be excited, maybe even relieved to finally be getting rid of her baggage so Derek could move in without knowing about them. My phone started ringing at 9:15. Jessica's name flashed on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again at 9:20, then 9:25. I turned the volume off and went back to my coffee. By 10 a.m., I had 12 missed calls and 15 text messages. I finally opened them. Where are you, Catherine? We're at your apartment, but nobody's answering. Why is there a phone number taped to your door? We called it and it's your landlord. He says you moved out. What's going on? This isn't funny. Derek is supposed to move in today. Then my parents started calling. Mom's name appeared on my screen over and over. Dad texted me, "Call us immediately. Your sister needs you." At 11 a.m., Jessica sent a long, desperate text, "I don't understand what's happening. Your landlord says you moved out last week. Where are you? Derek is coming with his stuff this afternoon. The kids are scared and confused. Please call me back." I put my phone on silent and went for a walk along the river. When I came back an hour later, I had 23 missed calls. The texts were getting more frantic. "Catherine, please. I'm begging you. I don't know what to do with the kids. Derek just called, he's loading his truck now. I need you to take Emma, Liam, and Ella right now. My whole future depends on this. You can't do this to me." I made myself lunch and read a book. My phone kept buzzing, but I ignored it. Around 4 p.m., I got a text from Jessica that was just, "I hate you." At 6 p.m., my cousin Allison called. Allison is Jessica's age but way more sensible. We'd always gotten along well. "Catherine, thank God you answered. I just got off the phone with your mom. What happened?" I told Allison everything, about the constant babysitting, about Jessica's plan to dump the kids on me for months, about the weekend disaster where they broke my TV, about how my parents always took Jessica's side. Allison was quiet for a long time. Jesus, Catherine. I had no idea it was that bad. Nobody did, because every time I tried to talk about it, I was being selfish. So you just disappeared. I moved. I have a new apartment across town. They can't find me because I don't want to be found. What happens now? I don't know, but I'm not going back to being Jessica's free babysitter. Good for you, Allison said firmly. Honestly, good for you. 2 weeks later, Allison called again with an update that was better than anything I could have imagined. You're not going to believe this. I got the full story about what happened with Derek. When Jessica couldn't get the kids to you, she was stuck. Derek showed up with his moving truck ready to move in, and there were 3 kids there that he'd never heard about. Jessica had to confess that she'd been lying to him for months about having children. I held my breath. He was so angry about the deception that he loaded his stuff back up and left immediately. He told her he couldn't trust someone who would lie about something that fundamental. I wasn't surprised, but I felt genuinely sad for the kids. They didn't deserve to be treated like dirty secrets. How's she taking it? Not well. She's been calling everyone in the family, trying to get them to convince you to come back. But honestly, Catherine, people are starting to see through her drama. Uncle Philip asked Mom why you were expected to raise Jessica's kids when Jessica should be doing it herself. A few days later, Mom called. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Catherine. Her voice was ice cold. We need to talk. You destroyed your sister's life. Derek was perfect for her, and now he's gone because you refused to help your family. Mom, Jessica destroyed her own relationship by lying about having kids. She was protecting her future. She was being dishonest, and she expected me to help her lie. You're excluding yourself from this family with your selfishness. You excluded me first when you decided my life didn't matter as much as Jessica's. Mom was quiet for a moment. What do you want from us, Catherine? I want you to understand that I'm not Jessica's backup parent. I'm not her free babysitter. I have my own life. So you'll never help with the children again? I'll never be taken for granted again. I guess we have nothing more to talk about. I guess not. She hung up. That evening, I got one final text from Jessica. It was brutal. You are dead to me. I never want to see you again. You ruined my life, and I will never forgive you. After reading that message, I did something I'd been thinking about for weeks. I logged into my bank account and canceled the automatic transfer for Jessica's rent. Half her rent money was gone, just like that. I screenshotted the cancellation and texted it to Jessica with a message. Since I'm dead to you anyway, I figured you wouldn't want my help with your rent either. Then I blocked her number. I blocked Mom's number too, and Dad's. For the first time in 2 years, my weekends were my own. I could make plans without worrying about Jessica showing up with 3 kids. I could go out after work without checking my phone for emergency babysitting requests. I could live my own life. Ashley threw me a belated birthday party to make up for the one I'd missed. You seem different, she said as we ate cake. Happier. I feel different. Like I can breathe again. It's been 3 months now since I disappeared from my family's life. I don't know when or if I'll talk to them again. Part of me misses them, especially the kids, but I don't miss the constant guilt trips. I don't miss being treated like my time and money don't matter. Allison updates me sometimes. Jessica had to move to a cheaper apartment when she couldn't afford the rent. She's dating again, but this time she's upfront about having kids from the first date. Mom and Dad are helping with babysitting more now that I'm not available. Maybe someday we'll work things out. Maybe Jessica will apologize for taking advantage of me. Maybe my parents will realize that loving your family doesn't mean sacrificing your entire life for them. But until then, I'm learning what it feels like to put myself first. And honestly, it feels pretty damn good. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is refuse to enable someone's destructive choices. Sometimes setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's survival. And sometimes the family that truly loves you is the one you choose for yourself. Thanks for listening, and if you liked this story, share it with others, and don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about finding the courage to reclaim your life when others take you for granted. Remember, boundaries aren't walls to keep people out, they're the foundation that lets you stand tall.